may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely it's really
Just, I love stories like this because it's
evolved to someone scared to death. That's a real thing.
there are countless stories
bad enough.
people that you shouldn't fuck with.
Right, and the JFK assassination all
Too real.
From the mistake on the oops, I should have turned that down. From the mistake on the lake deep within the Great American Rust Belt, I bid you all good morning, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be, across the nation, around the world. This is Type 3 TV. I'm your host, John Bazinski, alongside Daniel, Stephen Rady.
What is happening?
And let's see. Also, never mind. I was going to do
the
Satan.
same third fucking person that's on every
Satan.
podcast.
Forgot his name.
Yes. Hold on.
Satan's here.
I'm okay, Satan. Thanks, Dan. Back to you, Dan.
All right. That was Satan chiming in. Good evening, everybody. All right. So, yeah. Sorry about that. So, it is Thursday, April 28th, 2022. The time is 8:05 p.m. Temperature in the 40s. How's your guys' week?
Uneventful, as usual.
Yeah. Nothing new? Nothing?
Not really. Just, shared the new song a little bit, and did that, and just really kind of started working on another song, which I said I wasn't going to, but I have to get one more done. That was like one of those songs where you kind of like it gets into your mind, and you just keep humming it, and you're like, I got to write that song.
You got to finish it.
You got to finish it. Yeah. So I'm just going to do one more, and then that's it. Just hoping that this weather starts getting so we'll stay nice for freaking more than 2 days, so that we can start doing shit.
It was super hot on Saturday. Went to the zoo, and this is the first time I had been to the zoo, and I can't even remember. And I wanted to do. I've been using my camera a lot. Like I bought, a full frame camera right before the pandemic started, or maybe right in the midst of it. It was in the midst of it because I remember I had to drive up to Best Buy and pull up in a lane and have them bring the camera out to me. But I've used it more in the last, I would say, 2 months than I have the entire time I've had it. But used it in California, Montana, Pittsburgh, went to the zoo, did some photo shoots for some friends and family. So just getting a lot of good use out of it. And I can see, like, I went back and looked at some of the pictures that I took when I first started doing photography and where I'm at now. I'm really happy with where I'm at and where I'm going. So
nice.
But yeah, it was really hot at the zoo on Saturday. I got a little sunburnt, and then Monday or Tuesday it dropped into just above 30. So there you have it.
You mentioned sunburn. Yeah, you mentioned sunburn. Saturday I went to a buddy's race out in Lorraine, and I don't normally burn, like, because I got kind of olive skin. I don't have, like, I'm not fair skinned, so I don't burn very much. Man, I got burned to a freaking crisp. I look like a lobster. I mean, I don't know how it happened, because the sun UV rays weren't supposed to be that bad that day. And man, I was in pain. My arms were just like bright red. They're like glowing. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You should have wore clothes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right.
Did you do any bike riding or anything?
No. I went to that race, and I was there the entire day from like 12 to like 12 o'clock at night. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a long day. I'm helping them, unload the car and do some different things, so take photos and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Did you go on any night hikes?
No. That's not my thing, man. Don't do the night hikes here.
A girl can dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buddha, didn't I run into you this weekend? Did we do something? Did I see
Yeah, I
you?
saw you at Gwen's.
That's right.
thing.
Yeah, that was a Saturday. Yeah, we went to the zoo before that, and then after that, saw it.
Saw them G-Rillas getting down.
Dude, yeah, there was this gorilla was doing his thing, and we'll just leave it at that. But what was that?
As is tradition.
So how was your week, Buddha?
It feels like it never ends. Ever.
Yeah.
Never, ever. Oh, and my dryer died. So then I got a new one. Well, it died last Thursday, which is why my life was somewhat chaotic for the last podcast.
Gas or electric?
It was electric. I replaced it with gas.
Was it the heating element?
Oh, it was like 30 years old.
Oh,
if
really?
not.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I was like,
Why
I'm
do
done.
you have a dryer so old, Buddha?
Because it didn't die.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dan, look
you
at
make
your
fun
computer.
of me and my damn computers.
Dan, you reuse cups from Taco Bell.
That's very true. And you buy used shoes.
Yeah, no.
Dude, he will never
Nope.
do that. That
Never in my life have I had that. The cups you got me on, I do reuse cups a lot.
you
but
brought
not the,
Dan
not the
out of
shoes.
sabbatical for that comment last summer.
That's right.
But yeah, no, it makes sense. Like I said, why dirty a glass if you already got a dirty, like a cup you can just rinse out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you reuse the straw? That's the question.
I clean out the straw, and I do reuse it. Yes.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, you guys want to hop into some news, and we'll just kind of keep moving.
Let's do
I
it.
would imagine that's how the show would progress.
I'm just asking if there was anything you wanted to add before we start.
No.
You need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. All right. So this one comes out of the best news source on planet Earth, CNN. This one here is from CNN Business. McDonald's exit from Russia is costing it a lot of money and food. The company announced last month that it would temporarily close its restaurants in Russia because of the country's invasion of Ukraine. It also closed restaurants in the Ukraine. Those shutdowns cost McDonald's $127 million in the last quarter. Oof, madam. That's a lot of money. McDonald's said in March that it would continue to pay its 62,000 Russian employees despite shutting. Okay, so what's the point? I don't get it. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but I don't know. It's kind of weird.
I think the point is that nobody cares.
Well, but the thing is like, okay, so they shut the restaurant, or they shut the restaurants down, but they're still paying people. So they're still contributing. Like, why shut the restaurants down then? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It's called virtue signaling.
I guess. I know. It's just, again, my mind is imploding. It says
Yeah,
McDonald's said in March that it would continue to pay its 62,000 Russian employees despite shutting operations in the country. Shutting down operations. CEO Chris Kamczynski added during a Thursday call with analysts that McDonald's is supporting Ukraine employees too. In both countries, we've continued to pay employees and provide additional support. Those staff costs plus payments and leases supplies cost the company $27 million. The other $100 million was from food and other items that we'll have to get rid of. Results included $100 million of costs for inventory in the company's supply chain that will likely be disposed due to restaurants being temporarily closed. The company will offer an update on the plans. So $100 million in food. Like, I wonder what they're going to do with it. Just throw it out, I guess?
Well, if I had to take a guess on this entire take, I would say that so obviously they're virtue signaling, but they don't want to fire everybody because once all this blows over, they're just going to quietly reopen and still play both sides.
Right. Which
Because
is what
it's
they're
a
doing
business.
anyway.
Yes. But they need to say we closed everything in Russia in order to virtue signal. But they're not actually stopping anything. They're just waiting until they can reopen and then everybody can be all happy again.
Right. I just wonder, like, why not try to donate the food and distribute it amongst, I mean, just, they're going to throw all this food away. I don't
Fucking McDonald's food. It ain't food.
know. I mean, but
Right, I was about to say the same thing.
It's better than some shit that people are eating throughout the world. Yeah.
I mean, why
Yeah, I
wouldn't they
guess-
just stop sending it there? Just, I don't know. Whatever.
Cool. All right. Well, so yes, McDonald's lost $100 million in food that was supposed to go to Russia. Dan, what's your take on McDonald's? Do you like McDonald's?
Not really. The only thing I can eat at McDonald's anymore is the breakfast. I do eat once in a while. I get like a egg McMuffin.
Yeah.
But I have not had actual like a McDonald's sandwich other than an egg McMuffin in probably over a year.
Yeah. What did you
At least over a year. What's that?
What did you in?
Just I got sick of eating it. It makes me. The only thing I ever ate there really was a quarter pounder with cheese, and that after I get done eating them, I just get bloated. I feel unhealthy. I get like a stomach ache, and I'm like, you know what? And then when I started doing more grocery shopping, I'm like, literally the only fast food I eat is Taco Bell. Really, I know we joke about it, but Taco Bell and occasionally KFC. I do get KFC every once in a while, but
They closed your Boston Market down.
oh, I know that pissed me off, dude. I love Boston Market. I forgot about them.
The one in
so I
Richmond?
got to go to Strongsville, huh?
Berea. Or not Berea.
Seven Hills.
Broadview. Yeah, like Seven Hills, Broadview.
Yep. They closed it down like 6-7 months ago.
You don't like the one in Ridge Park, Dan?
I've gone there a few times. Yeah, I've gone. I just hate the traffic around there.
Yeah, it is
Ooh,
pretty.
yeah, it's awful.
Terrible traffic. So I've gone there, but then I go to the one in Strongsville, but that traffic sucks around there too.
You know where the traffic's getting horrible right now? We're kind of talking locally, so hopefully, I mean, again, we're probably boring Larry out of his mind. But the fucking traffic over on Bagley Road, my God. Like over by the hospital, it's gridlocked every day. For what would take normally 6 minutes to drive through, 20 minutes easily.
So Bagley and Pearl?
No, it opens up right before you get to.
It's like Bagley and Engle.
Yes, it's like
Oh, yeah.
by the IHOP and all that other shit over there. But like the
Yep.
hospital's over there too. It's always congested. And it always has to do with hospital traffic. Once you get past the freeway, if you're heading east, once you're past the freeway, it's fine. If you're heading west, once you pass the hospital, it's fine. It's between the hospital and the freeway that is just a fucking nightmare.
Right. A lot of that traffic's coming out of Berea too, with all the colleges and that too around there.
Yeah.
'Cause that's
All right.
up further.
Well, anyone that's curious about local Berea, Middleburg Heights traffic, there you have it. Dan, this one's for you. I try to bring a car story in the news. Did you read this article? This one's Jalopnik?
Jalopnik.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that a website? Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, they've been around for years.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it like a former magazine or something, or?
No, it's
publication?
just a publication that I think it's a bunch of idiots that run it, but I don't usually read them too many of their stories. But they've been around since like the mid 2000s,
Okay.
2005, 2006. But yeah,
All right, so here it says workers at the biggest General Motors production plant in Mexico are asking for a raise. A newly formed union at the plant, where many mid-level employees earn roughly $3 an hour, is seeking a 19.2% wage increase that would bring some of the wages as high as $6.62 an hour, according to a report from Reuters. The wage hike would help workers at the plant in Silo, Mexico, deal with the runaway inflation in the country, currently over 7%. GM countered with a proposed wage increase of 3.5%, which SINTTIA, the newly formed union at the plant, called a slap in the face. The silo complex cranks out more than 1,000 Silverado and Sierra trucks per day, according to GM. Reuters calls the trucks profitable, which is an understatement. The Chevrolet Silverado, badged as the Cheyenne in Mexico, and the GM Sierra are veritable cash cows for the U.S. auto giant. The trucks have given GM a 32.5% market share in the segment of the U.S. auto market, or just about a third of all truck sales in the U.S. That's probably the big chunk of profits that GM recently posted. So, I don't know, $3 an hour, and they want a 6% increase.
and
I thought you said, didn't you just say 19.2%?
you said 19%.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yes. 19.2% increase, so it jumps from $3 to $6. I apologize, yes.
But yeah, GM countered it with a joke, basically.
3.5%, which standard raise across any sort of business is anywhere between 3 and 5% average worldwide.
Right. That is an understatement. Excuse me, that's an understatement. What that article said is an understatement about how profitable the SUVs are for General Motors. The Silverados, the Escalades. I mean,
we lost you again. Hold on, waiting for it to catch up. Oh, Dan. Let's see. I know I'm still live. Let's see.
Hello?
Yeah, it cut out for a
Hello?
second. Now, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it cut out for a second. I don't know. Had a hiccup.
Okay. Well, anyway, yeah. So, as I was saying, I don't know where I cut off on, but yeah, it is an understatement. The Escalades, not Silverados, but Suburbans, well, Silverados too. All their trucks and their SUVs. It doesn't matter which one you talk about. They are making GM the money that GM needs to make, or that the profits are coming in from those vehicles, and nothing has stopped the sales of those vehicles. The high gas prices, the so-called inflation of the recession, or anything going on has not stopped any of that, the sales of those vehicles at all. And those are a cash cow for GM. It's definitely not. It's definitely not an understatement.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who has the best-selling truck still? Is it Ford? The F-150?
Yeah, Ford still is number one. The Ram has started to move up the list big time, but I think number two is still the Chevy Silverado.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that that Ford commercial from the 80s? Let's see here. Oh yeah, banned Ford commercial. Have you ever seen this? I'm gonna play.
No, I don't think so.
Can you believe the bullshit Chevy's putting in their spots lately? Fucking A. I guess it goes to show you what years of frustration will do. Because for the last 12 years, Ford has built the best-selling truck in America, Ford F-150. Ford also builds the best-selling compact pickup, Ford Ranger. So if you want fucking stunts, see a fucking movie. But if it's America's #1 trucks you want, it's on Chevy. Go see your Ford dealer now.
This is great.
That is awesome.
Yeah, the guy when he says, "You want to see studs? Go see a fucking movie." He puts a cigarette out against his hand. Oh, so fucking funny. That's a good one. What about, you ever see Big Bill Hells? Let's see.
Yes. That is great. Of course, that was not a real commercial, but
yeah. Yeah, but it's just set up.
Fuck you, Baltimore! If you're dumb enough to buy a new car this weekend, you're a big enough schmuck to come to Big Bill Hell's Cars. Bad deals. Cars that break down. Thieves. If you think you're gonna find a bargain at Big Bill, you can kiss my ass. It's our belief that you're such a stupid motherfucker. You'll fall for this bullshit. Guaranteed. If you find a better deal, shove it up your ugly ass. You heard us right. Shove it up your ugly ass. Bring your tray. Bring your tie. Bring your wife. We'll fuck her. That's right. We'll fuck your wife. Because it's Big Bill Hell. You're fucked 6 ways from Sunday. Take a hike to Big Bill Hell. Home of challenge pissing. That's right. Challenge pissing. How does it work? If you can piss 6 feet in the air straight up and not get wet, you get no down payment. Don't wait. Don't delay. Don't fuck with us or we'll rip your nuts off. Only at Big Bill Hell. The only dealer that tells you to fuck off. Hurry up, asshole. This event is the minute after you write us a check. And it better not bounce or you're a dead motherfucker. Go to hell. Big Bill Hell's Cars. Baltimore's filthiest and exclusive home of the meanest sons of bitches in the state of Maryland. Guaranteed.
That's perfect. I love
that is great.
Yeah, no, it's funny because it's set up just like a car commercial from the 90s. Both of them are.
Right. They are, yeah. Yep.
Just the cars driving high speed in the snow, and then there's, on the 101, in California, right next to the ocean.
Yeah, they're using actual stock footage from the actual car commercials.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't think, they can unionize all they want. I don't think GM's going to budge on it, though.
No, unless they strike or anything like that. Yeah, GM will probably not budge on it at all, especially when dealing with, the In Mexico, I don't think that's gonna. I don't know. Like I said, you know how I feel about the management of General Motors, so who knows what the hell they're gonna do.
Yeah. Here's another one. All right, so here's the last story I got for tonight, and then I have another weird mystery story for later if we have time to get to it. But this one popped up, and I was actually shocked. I had no idea this was happening. Boo, I don't know if you hear about this either. The Biden administration. This is from The Hill. The Biden administration the Biden administration's move to ban menthol cigarettes has, I guess that they're trying to get rid of menthol cigarettes on the market. The FDA, have you heard anything about this?
I don't pay attention to nonsense.
Yeah, it says the White House has heard from, let's see, the Food and Drug Administration is to set a ban on, which could have a major impact on the tobacco industry. I don't understand why they would want to ban menthol. I just don't, it doesn't, why just that and not any other type of cigarette?
I thought I remember hearing something about that years ago. I can't remember the details, but I thought that was something that goes way back, like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it says here, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration proposed on Thursday a rule to ban menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars. Though careful consideration of the scientific evidence and our authorities under the Tobacco Control Act, we've determined that these actions are appropriate for the protection of public health. FDA Commissioner Dr. Robert Catliff told a Senate subcommittee the proposed standards would, among other things, improve the health and reduce the mortality risk of current smokers of menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars by substantially decreasing their consumption and increasing the likelihood of cessation. This is another important move forward in the agency's effort to combat youth tobacco products and promote health equity. I don't understand, though. I guess it says menthol is an equity issue that the FDA has been considering for more than a decade. And it is the last special flavor allowed in cigarettes in the U.S. It was carved out of the 2009 Tobacco Control Act that banned all other flavored cigarettes and gave the FDA authority to regulate the tobacco industry to protect public health. Again, why do they need to... this still, I'm not a smoker, but a lot of people are going to be pissed off about this.
Yeah, they did such a stellar job with the war on drugs. I'm sure this is going to go just fine.
Yeah.
In other news, water is wet.
Yes. I'm just wondering, are people going to be selling menthol cigarettes on the black market now?
Yes, absolutely. So that's actually Augusta in, was it? Let me see. Hang on. Yeah, Augusta in the chat just said about to stock up on Newports and sell them in the city. Don't be stealing ideas.
Oh, boy. I'm looking at the chat here and I'm getting nervous. All right. Well.
Anyway.
Let's see here. All right, that's all I got. Buddha or Dan. Dan.
Yep.
What do you got?
Alrighty. I was letting my theme music go first before I start talking.
Here, I'll fade it in the background so you can talk over.
All right. So, this is not really a unique story at all. I mean, everyone's heard of this, and it's funny you brought up General Motors just before because, my story just really revolves around General Motors. And it's, again, not unique, but we all know back about, 12 years ago, 2009, General Motors went bankrupt. And I think it's an interesting story to when the Great Recession happened. There were so many companies going belly up. There was so much shit going on, and in that, of course, the big news story was Chrysler and GM going bankrupt. But kind of wanted to just look into the history of GM, not the full history because we would be here literally all night if I went into the full history of it, but just to where they were and what they were when the bankruptcy happened and where they are now. And it's kind of a fascinating story for the fact that General Motors, as I've said before, I'll be repeating a lot of stuff that I've said in the past shows, but General Motors was the largest car corporation in the world for 80 plus years, actually. They had the most divisions, they had the most employees, they had pretty much the best designs of any car, and they were the company. They were one of the largest corporations in the world, too, not just the biggest automaker. And that went on for decades, many, many decades. But to see where it ended up, how this big, giant conglomerate could just fall from the ranks and just get to the point where they needed a bailout, and they went bankrupt and they needed the bailout. But General Motors, when you go back into like the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, General Motors was the dream, the American dream. You worked, you got a job at GM, you worked there your entire life, you retired. And a lot of corporations were like this, not just GM, but GM was the biggest. That's the reason I'm using them as an example. You retired and you got a pension for the rest of your life. And then maybe your kids would go working for General Motors, and then their kids, and so on and so forth. So, GM was really, like I said, kind of like the American dream corporation to work for, per se. But there was a lot of things so many things wrong with General Motors. And to kind of go where this led to, where did the bankruptcy happen? How did it happen? Because everyone knows that GM went bankrupt in 2009. They even had the term, they were coined government motors. I'm sure you remember hearing that for a while afterward, because the government bailed them out and actually owned them for a while. I should say, you, me, and Buddha, and everyone listening owned General Motors for a while, the stockholder, or the taxpayers, rather. So, but what led to it? So really it kind of started in I want to say 70s, but definitely the 80s, and where General Motors really quit caring about the buying public, right? They were so big and so large that they just made what they wanted to make. They didn't care what the public liked or didn't like, because for the longest time, GM just had a grip. Ford and Chrysler, I mean, yeah, they were big, but they could not keep up with GM. They weren't anywhere near General Motors. And the imports were far, far away from what they are today. So they really weren't quite a fear or a challenge or an enemy or whatever you want to call it yet to GM. But, you look back, and I want to say one thing too. One little known, I should say, a fact that's not very little known, is that the government actually tried to break up General Motors in the 1960s, really under antitrust laws. They thought General Motors had gotten too big. It was almost as a monopoly, because Ford and Chrysler were much too small to keep up with GM. So for a short time, it didn't go very far. It didn't get too deep or anything, but the government actually thought about or tried to push for example, Chevy to be spun off and completely have Chevy as its own corporation. The reason that none of this could ever happen would be because General Motors owned all the designs and the engines and the chassis and everything. So for for Chevy or Buick or Cadillac or any of them to spin off, they would have to have their own, they would have to start making their own engines and their own chassis and everything else, and their own designs and everything. So it wasn't possible. But a lot of people wonder what would have happened had the government succeeded in splitting up General Motors, or had General Motors had that happen, what would it look like in the future? But I just want to insert that in here, because initially that's one of the reasons GM went bankrupt, because General Motors was just too damn big and they were losing too much money. But in the 80s, I don't want to take forever on the story. So in the 80s, General Motors designs started going down the toilet big time, especially the mid 80s. From about 85 on, General Motors had what was called badge engineering. And in case for people that don't know cars and they don't understand what badge engineering is, badge engineering basically means that my Cadillac looks exactly like your Buick. Your Buick looks exactly like this Oldsmobile. The only difference is it has a different taillight or headlight, and it has the actual Oldsmobile badge on it. So General Motors took a lot of they got hit really bad with that, because a person that spends all that money on a Cadillac looks like some guy that's driving an Oldsmobile that didn't spend nowhere near as much. His car looks almost the exact same. They were called cookie cutter cars because that's what they look like. They all were cut from the same thing. So General Motors sales started really kind of sliding in the 80s because of that. And a lot of this had to do with the CEO at the time, a gentleman named Roger Smith. Now, you can look up Roger Smith. He is infamous in the world of bad CEOs. And he almost brought General Motors to bankruptcy in the early 90s between everything that was going on, and GM was bleeding red, red ink all over the place. Well, another CEO came in around 92 named Jack Smith, no relation to Roger. Jack Smith came in and he really restructured the company and, sold off some divisions, just made it, the stock went back up. The car design started becoming a little more unique, really changed everything. And GM was doing pretty good in the 90s. They weren't back to their heyday, but they were still certainly gaining the public's trust again, and the sales were going up there. Sales were getting better, rather. So as we get into the early 2000s, 2002, 2003, around there, GM's designs are just bland at this point, though. They're making cars that nobody wants to buy, and it starts hitting them. Their sales start slowly sliding. At the same time, General Motors sells off one of their most profitable divisions, GMAC, their financing arm. They sell off the financing arm, and what you have happen now is, obviously at this point, now GM's already bleeding money. They're already losing a lot of money. General Motors was gigantic. You got to understand, GM is not just here in America. General Motors has European operations. They have operations in China. They're a conglomerate. They're a very complex and large, well, they were, I should say, a large, complex and complex corporation. So all these divisions are losing money. The European arm is definitely losing a lot of money. And as we start approaching 07, General Motors is losing billions of dollars. I'm not talking millions. They're losing billions. By the end of 2008, General Motors lost $30 billion. So you're seeing that things are starting to basically go down the toilet. And that this is happening right as the bubble is starting to hit. The housing bubble, the Great Recession's hitting, people are losing jobs. So that definitely didn't help the situation. General Motors goes into, Obama comes in, all that happens. I'm not getting to the politics version of it here, point of it, but between Bush and Obama, they have the auto bailout created. That saves Chrysler. So let me back up a minute. General Motors officially goes bankrupt, which was unthinkable, maybe 5-6 years earlier. June 1st, 2009, GM is bankrupt. Okay. So what happens is the way it's structured, they had actually, this is kind of interesting in a way because it's not typical bankruptcy. It's a bankruptcy code section 363. And what that entails is how GM was able to go bankrupt, but then come back out as General Motors, the new GM. Okay. So the 363 code is used basically to sell specific assets of the company. And this could be something from a desk in the factory to a factory or a division, right? But not the entire standalone company. So what ends up happening is GM churns into what's known as Motors Liquidation. Okay, so Motors Liquidation LLC is the old General Motors. The new General Motors is now called General Motors Company, whereas prior it was called the General Motors Corporation because it is now a brand new entity with the name of General Motors. So the old entity, like I said, was called Motors Liquidation. Chrysler had something else. I can't remember what Chrysler had, what their terminology was, but they had something similar. Just to give you an idea, General Motors, as of right before June 1st, they had $82 billion in assets and $173 billion in liabilities. So you could see it was the largest industrial bankruptcy in history. At that time, I think still it is at this time, even as of today it is. So when General Motors comes out, they're now the things that are the I guess not qualifications, but the things that have to happen that the government wants, because now the government's got their hands into General Motors. GM has to shrink, so they get rid of Pontiac, they shut down Pontiac, they shut down Saturn, They shut down Hummer. They sell off Saab. There were some other, I think a few other divisions that they got rid of. And you've got this new, more lean General Motors that comes out. And, of course, the taxpayers bailed them out. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And they bailed Chrysler out, too. So when it comes time, GM starts, they put a new CEO in. It actually went through a couple CEO changes in this time, but they got a new CEO. They start becoming somewhat profitable again. Around 2012, I believe, GM pays back most of the money that the government, pays back the government. However, later on, the government comes out, I think around 2015, and says they actually lost money on the whole deal. They lost about $11 billion in the whole thing. I don't know how GM didn't pay them everything back, or what occurred with that, if they gave them a break or whatever. But GM's back, right? They're back in business, and we look at them now. What the GM that exists now, even compared to the GM that existed in 2010, is even smaller. So, in 2017, Mary Barra, she's the current CEO, chairman of the board. She sells off the European division, and I'm probably going to butcher these names, but Opel and Vauxhall, I think that's how you pronounce the two names. German cars. That was General Motors owned them for about 80 years, over 80 years. So she sells them off to Peugeot, and that further shrinks General Motors. And just in 2020, they got rid of Holden. Holden was their Australian operation. They shut that down completely. All these divisions were losing money. So, you understand, I do understand to a point, General Motors could never, especially the last 10, 15 years, they could never run their European arm operations correctly. They just couldn't run them correctly. They weren't putting enough money into them to give them decent products, and they're gone. So you now have a General Motors that is obviously a totally different looking animal than what it was certainly 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and definitely different than what it even looked like I said, 10, 11 years ago. And I think it's an interesting story, and of course, there's a lot of people that have opinions. I know, Buddha, you mentioned several weeks back, you said, which was a great point. You said, well, what would have happened if they just if they would have just let General Motors and Chrysler fail and just let them go, let them go bankrupt, and see if people can get together and start a whole new American car corporation. And the one of the big keys was, from the research I did, was you would have had well over close to 2 million people would have lost their jobs just like that, from Chrysler, from General Motors, and not just those two, though, because what would have happened was all the parts suppliers that supply parts to GM and Chrysler, they would have instantly went under, which would have eventually brought Ford under as well, because there's no way they would have survived with just Ford being there alone. They needed that extra business from the Chrysler and General Motors for all the parts that they make, the seats, the seat belts, the bolts, the switch gear, all that stuff. Those parts suppliers would have went under right with them, and they estimate about 2 million people would have lost their jobs just like that. So the government was looking at it to where they didn't want these people to lose their jobs. Not to mention, I don't think there's any way.
If I could just touch on that real quick, it has nothing to do with the government wanting people not to lose their jobs. It has everything to do with the people in the government wanting to continue getting money from lobbyists. Had those companies gone under, it probably would have been an adjustment period. But if it was a true free market, innovation is going to be built from necessity, and all of those people with the ability to turn off a switch, to turn a switch on and off and start production, would have gotten together and formed new companies. That's the whole point, is that those companies are allowed to get so bad for so long because the government bails them out. If there's an actual free market where the government doesn't intervene, if a company is not doing well, they have to make adjustments. GM was allowed to run like a piece of shit company for years because the government was able to give them money. They didn't have to make any adjustments. They just kept running like a big piece of shit company with the CEO raking in more and more money and then still lobbying for the fucking government. Like whenever you see a government assistance like that, it has nothing to do with helping the little person. That's how I feel about it.
No, that's a good. I mean, that's absolutely. I understand where you're coming from with that, but regardless whether you could be right. You could be right. I don't follow into the government politics portion of it as much as you do. So you could be right on that, but the fact of the matter is 2 million people would have lost their jobs. Plus, you would have had almost 1 million retirees. People that were retired from General Motors would have lost their pensions. They would have lost their health care. It would have been, regardless of why they did it or what reasons or what the motives were.
This thing's frozen again.
Were catastrophic, and it was for those people that lost their. I sold insurance to a gentleman that this was back in like 2012, that was working for General Motors at the time, and he had a family, 4 kids, house, all that other stuff. And he was telling me, he goes, me and my friends and the people that worked there, we were scared to death. We didn't have the skills to go, it would have taken us a long time to get skills to go into any other kind of industry. And, we were scared of losing our job and what was going to happen to our families and our houses and all this stuff. So, but that, again, whatever the motive was on it, it would have still been catastrophic, regardless of what would have happened if they would have let him die.
Let me just make one more point, and then I will let you finish. So
sure.
They were afraid to, basically they were afraid for the company to fail and that, oh my God, they're going to lose their job, blah, blah, blah. And then the government swoops in and fails them. Okay, yeah, that's great, I guess, for whatever reason. But then 2020 happens. Why did everyone lose their job? Because of the government. That's just a point that I'm making. They are never there for the best interest of the people, ever. But go on.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Like I said, yeah. Regardless of what, again, the motives were, it would have been. It definitely still would have been catastrophic, regardless. And you could be right, but. As far as getting together, though, and starting a whole new company, that would have been something that, I mean, it would have taken probably close to 6, 7, probably even maybe longer to start a company from scratch, even if they could have done that. And like I said, the billions and billions of dollars, plus the trust of the public. I mean, when you start it's not like starting a company that's making, or designing a new microwave oven. I mean, when you're building a car from the ground up, a car company from the ground up, it could have happened. And it's an interesting point that you brought up last time, but would it have been successful? Would it have been a failure? Obviously, nobody would know that, but, yeah, that's what happened. And, here they are today, which I think, General Motors, but you're right, Buddha, what you said. GM was, ran like absolute shit for so long. And a lot of people agreed with you. A lot of people thought they should have just let the company fail, let them go down the toilet. Who gives a fuck? And of course, those people didn't have families or they weren't the ones working for General Motors or the suppliers or anything like that because they were scared to death of what was going to happen. And, who knows what would have happened? Who knows how it would have turned out if they would have let him go? Obviously, Ford would have, again, a lot of the analysts and the people that have looked into it said Ford probably would have went bankrupt themselves in due time. It might have taken a little longer, but they could have went under themselves. So who knows? That's the story. I just wanted to really just bring it up and just talk about where GM was, because at one point General Motors, way back in the day, when they were actually cared about cars that they were building, and they were innovative and they had great designs and they cared about the customer in the 30s and 40s and maybe I guess some of the 50s, to where they ended up. It's just an unbelievable story, and it's just something I wanted to share. I mean, I know a lot of people might know about the story, but I just thought it was kind of an interesting story. So that.
Apparently that's your send-off, Dan.
Yeah. I was going to say that's it, and John cued the music, so
That's it for you tonight, buddy.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
Hope everyone's still awake after that long, drawn-out thing.
We've actually got people in here, and I have no clue how.
It's all Larry.
Larry's all right. Our chief marketing officer, Larry Simpson. Thank you, Larry.
Since I can't see anything, if there's any questions directed to me or that story, please.
No,
one of you guys tell me.
Comment here says, "Can you please shut that guy the fuck up?" No, I'm just joking.
Well, I've been told
that was
before,
actually
so.
John's comment.
Yeah, sorry.
I thought that was Buddha's comment, actually.
Right. Buddha.
So I have two that I could do. They're kind of like the same topic, but I know if you're gonna do one, John, maybe I'll just do one of them.
All right, go for it.
So obviously everybody knows about the Salem witch trials, which, I mean, if you don't, you've probably been living in a fucking dumpster. But kind of interesting. So you hear about like the stuff with the Salem witch trials all the time about, pretty much people just being like dragged out and pretty much being forced to confess to being a witch, and then being burned at the stake or in just really any capacity being executed. I mean, obviously that sounds all familiar to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So did you know that, like, say starting around like the 14th century, prior to that, there was actually the werewolf trials where they would start dragging people out and torturing them and then basically getting them to confess to being a werewolf. Have you ever heard of that before?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like
sounds familiar.
Yeah, where people will force you into like admitting to something that's not actually true.
Oh, I mean, that's what it is. I just meant in general. Have you ever heard of like the werewolf trials instead of, because this actually happened before the Salem witch trials?
No, I have not. Sorry.
I've not.
It was like a whole stigma thing. Like everybody's a fucking werewolf because some livestock died. I don't know. Evidently, that's the go-to move. But anyway, so this one is actually out of the U.S. and it happened a little bit. This happened like mid to late 1800s. Whereas the other one I was going to do was kind of like 1500s, early 1600s. And I was like, not that it lends any more credibility to the idea of werewolves in general. Anyway, so here we go. This is in a town of, I believe it's Talbot County. Yes, so it's in Talbot County, Georgia, in the U.S. And, like pretty much everyone has kind of known werewolves from like movies. They turn into like jacked fucking monsters and they run around and blah, 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 and all that bullshit. So this story actually starts with like a little girl, and her name is Emily Isabel Burt. And she was just like a small child of a rather wealthy family at the time. And it was in the town which is now known as Woodland. So Emily's father dies and he leaves, and I don't know the actual age, but he leaves like, for the time, a bunch of money to the family, to the mom. And the mom, Mildred Owen Burt, instead of like being a good mom and taking care of her family, she goes, all right, I'm going to ship these fucking kids off to like a boarding school in Europe. And then she just kind of wanders around town, pretty much being a socialite and hanging out with other socialites because she was just left a ton of money. So a semester in Europe goes by and Emily ends up, she comes home and the rest of the family just kind of notices like, man, something just isn't quite right about like whatever's going on with her. She kind of looks sick. She was like dazed all the time, just, not very attentive. And then she just kind of started complaining that she really wasn't able to sleep. So this is going on for a couple days and her mom realizes that, hey, I know Emily mentioned that she can't sleep, but I've noticed that she started like getting up in the middle of the night and leaving and like going to this forest that's kind of nearby the house. So Mildred confronts Emily and Emily just comes out and says, I can't really remember what's going on. I just, I can't sleep. I go on like these midnight walks, but I don't really remember much of what happens. So to kind of add to the stigma, which this wasn't proposed yet, but to add to the stigma, they said she started to grow hair in like oddball places, and then people started to notice that like her, now keep in mind this is an old story, but that her teeth had actually begun to look more pointed, kind of like she was growing fangs. So the mother just wrote this off as like, well, she's going through puberty. It's just, I don't know, her body's changing. The whole fang thing, I don't know. Maybe she's chewing on rocks. I have no idea. I'm sure dental hygiene wasn't high in the 1800s. So as this is going on, the local farmers in the area start coming across like their own problems. And throughout Talbot County, farmers would get up and go and check their stock, and they would like go out in the fields, and they would find that like now they're finding mangled carcasses of their livestock. And it seemed to be like wolves were getting to the livestock, which could, would be a common problem. I personally don't know the wolf population in Georgia, but I'm just going off the article. So as this is now happening with like more and more farmers, and it's not really like localized to one or two people, they all kind of get together and they're like, you know what, we're going to put together like a hunting party. And the whole point is like, we're going to find the wolf or whatever it is that has been killing all the livestock. So this kind of goes on for weeks, and they go out at night and they can't find anything, so, okay, well, I guess we got to take it up a notch. So allegedly there was an old man that was from Eastern Europe, and it was kind of unofficially known that he dabbled in black magic. And a lot of other people just said like, this dude's crazy, but either way, like he was known, but he was definitely like an outsider to the town. So in the beginning, when like the mutilations were like first being discovered, nobody listened to this man when he was going on ranting that, he knew what was causing it. He knew there was like this creature, and it wasn't a regular wolf. It really wasn't even a regular animal. He like stated from the beginning, this is a werewolf, and nobody took him seriously because why would you? That sounds fucking nuts. But now at this point, like where the townspeople really have nothing else to go on, and the animals keep dying, and they've been going out every night for weeks, and they can't find evidence of anything, or at least any sign of anything. The farmers are just like, all right, well, this is nuts, but what we're doing isn't working, so we're gonna go talk to this old dude. So the old man basically told them, like, look, you can't just go out on any random night and expect to find this thing because it's not a normal animal. So they were told, you have to wait until the next full moon. And, in the meantime, he kind of told them what they need to do. You got to get all the silver, like every silver crucifix you can find. You got to melt them down. You got to make bullets out of it. And, like I said before, like they thought that all of this sounded crazy, but they were just like, well, what else are we going to do? I guess we'll do that. This is the thing now. So they began, doing what he said. So a couple weeks go by, and the group gets back together, and it's like the first full moon since they've talked to him. And, pretty much just like the old man said, as they're out in this hunting party, they kind of come across like this giant silhouette, just off in the distance. And they, it's, keep in mind, take this with a grain of salt because it's all secondhand. But, it was stated that this creature is like, it's a creature for one. It's as big as a man. It's got a long snout. It walks on two legs. Like it has wolf-like ears, and they don't really know what it is. So, naturally what they do, they start shooting at the thing. So it says, they can't really see all that well. So they fire off a bunch of shots, and they don't know if they kill it, but it does end up screaming. So they know that they at least hit it. They don't know if they killed it because it runs off, and they really have no proof. They can't find the body. So as all of this is going on, there was actually another hunt going on in the area. Wait, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. No, yeah. What it was is that Emily's mother, Mildred, had, woken up to this sound of gunshots and realized that Emily's not in her bed. So now, of course, she's like, holy shit, I don't know where she is. Got to find her. So she goes out and she's like, all right, enough. I know that my daughter's been going out and taking, going for walks in the woods, and I never really pressed it enough to really see where she's going. But, now I'm hearing gunshots. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. So she gets a lantern, and she heads off into the forest. So she kind of is, looking as pretty much everywhere in the forest, just trying to find Emily. And she ends up stumbling across Emily, who is unconscious at this point. And there's like a pool of blood around her hand. So she knows like something happened, and it had appeared that she had been shot. So she does her best to like stop the bleeding, but then she basically runs and goes to get help. So the following day, they get like the local doctor. He comes over to Emily's, patches her up pretty much, but he can't really explain like what happened. So there's a bunch of rumors now flying about town that, this is what happened from Emily's, accident, and that the farmer's successful werewolf hunt kind of began to like get intertwined in like all of the town talking in the taverns and whatnot. So now they're hearing that, yeah, the farmers went out and they found this beast and they hit it, but they didn't kill it. And that just so happens to be the same night that, Emily Burt is found unconscious with a wound on her hand. So, everybody's starting to go, well, wait a minute, like maybe she's the monster. So Mildred then discovers there's a doctor in Paris who claims to specialize in lycanthropy. And if anyone doesn't know what that is, a lycanthrope is basically just a shapeshifter, but it doesn't matter. Just know that that's what that is.
Yeah. That's the monsters in Resident Evil 8, Lycans.
Yeah, Lycans. So actually lycanthropy is an actual disease. I believe it's classified as a mental disorder in nowadays, but that doesn't matter for the story. So
it says lycanthropy. Hold on, the supernatural transformation of a person into a wolf, as recounted in folk tales, or a form of madness involving the delusion of being an animal, usually a wolf, with correspondingly altered behavior. So you can either be a true lycan or a crazy person and still be a lycan. So either way, you're a lycan.
There you go.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. All right. Go ahead.
Basically just like this suspicion that, Emily might have been to blame for, pretty much going out at night and mutilating cattle and not really knowing what else to do with her. Mildred decides to send her off to Paris in the hope that, maybe she can be cured. So from anything that was documented at the time, pretty much once... What?
No, it just cut out.
Did I drop out again?
Yeah, and I gotta hardwire this fucking thing. Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. So she's shipped off to Paris, and... Fuck, I lost my train of thought now. Oh, so she gets shipped off to Paris, and it just so happens that as, at the time that she's actually gone, all of the attacks stop. And, several years go by, and Emily actually returns back to Georgia, and she's supposedly cured of this, lycanthropy, and she ends up living out the rest of her life as like a normal person. She ends up being a successful businesswoman and a landlord. And then in 1911, at the age of 70, she died. And then she was buried in the Owens and Holmes Cemetery in Talbot County. And her gravestone reads, "Thy form alone is all, thank God, that to the grave is given. For eyes know thy soul, the better part is safe. Yes, safe is heaven." I don't know what the fuck that means, but that's what's on her tombstone. And it just kind of goes like, then it kind of talks about that, this is the legend of Georgia's werewolf girl, but it's pretty much kind of contested that, a bunch of locals that live there claim their great-grandparents encountered the beast, and then there's people that come out and say, well, there's really no hard evidence in one story. But I'm like, it's from the fucking 1800s, motherfucker, and it's about a werewolf. Like, take it with a grain of salt.
Right.
But, and then there's like a bunch of random reports that like, oh, well, Emily's ghostly spirit still roams, but it's in werewolf form and blah, 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 blah. But you can actually go and visit the grave of the Georgia werewolf if you're interested. And here's the address: Owen Home Cemetery, Woodland, Georgia 31836. For anyone that's interested in visiting that.
That's some exciting shit right there, Buddha.
Yeah. I thought you'd be fucking riveted, Dan.
Damn. Heart's pounding right now.
I could tell.
I'm kidding. I liked it. I want to listen. All right. If you were to pick your favorite type of folklore monster, which one would you pick?
Oh, I definitely like werewolves.
That's your favorite?
Werewolves and dragons.
Anybody in the chat, what are you picking? I'm going to go with vampires. And my favorite vampire movie of all time, From Dusk Till Dawn.
Twilight.
Nah, get out of here.
You need to shut the fuck up.
The problem with vampires is like they're so like with like the media stuff, they're so like over sexualized that I'm just like, oh God, like just enough. Be a badass. Stop being like this fucking just, I don't know. You know what I'm saying.
Vampires, they really existed though. I mean, for the most part, I mean, they didn't have, like Hollywood portrays them, but I mean, what are the blood drinkers of the 1600s, right?
Well, dude, that shit still goes on now.
Well, it still goes on now. Yeah, true, but
Dan, if you don't go outside in the summer, you end up looking like Dracula.
There you go.
Yeah. Starting to get the gray hairs on the sides too.
I know, me too, dude. I cut my hair and I'm just like I look like Paulie Walnuts from Sopranos with the gray on the side. I got the wings.
I know. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Man, that's funny. Buddha, go ahead and go with your second one here. I'm still pulling up a couple things from the one I want to do, so we've got time. It's only 9:00.
Well, this one's way older, and it's also about like werewolf trial stuff.
Yeah.
So if I can hold Dan's fucking attention, I can do it.
I'll try, man. Whew, I'll try.
I know. Just picture it as a car, a were car.
Yeah.
I actually read a book that has a were car as a character.
Well, what is it?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Was it Transformers?
No.
But what else would it be?
It was like some kind of possessed car thing. It was a really fucking weird book. I don't for the life of me remember what it was.
Yeah. I'm asking people in the chat what their favorite type of folklore monster is, and we're talking about French fries instead. So, what's your type of French fry? Crinkle cut, curly, seasoned curly, steak fries, shoestring fries.
Ooh, I don't like those.
Tater tots. And there's a couple different types of tater tots. There's the round kind, like a coin. There's also the cylindrical, short, chubby chode kind. Buddha, what were those fries you were eating over at my parents' house this weekend? Those things look gross.
Would
you consider those like steak
out
fries
for a little bit? I think they'd be steak fries.
I guess so. Yeah, steak fries.
Were they gluten-free, skin-free? Skin-free, gluten-free, fat-free, everything-free French fry. That
they were actually an ice cube. So what do you want?
There you go.
Hey, just because you guys think you're fucking funny, potatoes are gluten-free.
I know that.
See, I made myself look like an idiot.
Dan's a little slow.
Freedom fries. I guess that's a type of fry instead of French fries.
Oh God, you remember that shit?
Yeah. All right.
Well, do you want me to do this other one, or are you going to do yours?
We got people talking. So they said that vampires, dragons. I know you like dragons. You got a tattoo of a dragon, don't you?
I do have multiple dragons on me.
What's your favorite type of? Which kind of dragon do you like better? The like European
style, definitely the European style,
or the Chinese style.
I don't like the Chinese style because it's more like a snake.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, you definitely see more like a reptile than. Well, I guess they're all kind of lizards, but yeah, you definitely see more snake-like features on the Asian type of dragons. So
I watched this special on. It was actually on dragons, and I think it was on. It wasn't. It was like maybe sci-fi or not history, but it was like a more what I guess you would call like a legit channel. And I watched like they were explaining how it would be possible for something to breathe fire and all this stuff, and I was like, damn, dude, this is fucking sweet. Like, they found all this evidence, and I was like, holy shit, because they talked about like if they had a sack where they would be able to store nitrogen and then ignite it, like with their body being able to create a spark from like static stored up in the body. And I was like, damn, dude, that's fucking cool. And then like at the end of the show, they're like, none of this is real. We haven't found anything. This is all just speculation. And I was like, motherfucker, I just sat through this for like an hour. I was all pumped. Well, let's not everybody talk at once.
I know. Oh, sorry. Dan, all right, if you're going to pick a folklore creature, what is it?
I'm going to go with, I think the Loch Ness Monster is really an interesting character. I mean, I don't know if it's, obviously it's not, I don't think it's real. It's never been proven real. And it's, it is folklore basically out in Scotland, I think, right?
Yes.
So I think the Loch Ness Monster, I think if there was a creature that looked as big as they make it look in those grainy, horrible looking photos, I think it's that'd probably be my favorite creature, I would say.
Dan, what if the idea of the Loch Ness Monster isn't real just because everybody thinks it's like a paranormal type thing, but it actually does exist and it's just a giant sea serpent or like a leftover dinosaur that survived all these years?
It'd be awesome. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, does that take away like the myth factory, like the mysticism of it all?
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, well, right. I mean, if it proved that it was a real thing, yeah, if they could actually have scientific proof that showed that it was, yeah, then I mean, it's no longer lore. Then it's proven. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. I still think it'd be cool though if a creature looked like that and they did find something like that. But then it's real. It exists. So.
But I mean, does that make it not as cool because now it exists? Like, is the reason all this stuff is interesting because they can't prove that it exists?
I agree. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, it would definitely take away the coolness factor because then it's no longer that figment of your imagination to where you could say, "Wow, is this thing?" You think about, is this real? Is it? Where'd it come from? Where does it live? How come no one sees it? But yeah, if it came out that it was real, it would definitely take away the coolness factor of it.
See, I think, I think animals in general are fucking fascinating. But if you saw every time you turned on the TV or you lived in an area and there were dragons flying around, you wouldn't think that they were that cool. You'd be like, it's another fucking dragon. You know what I mean?
Right.
My real question is, who would eat 30 brown bag lunches? Well, I'll tell you who. Buddha, you're leaving me hanging.
I thought you were going to say it because we're talking about it.
Well, no, you put it in the chat. So
that damn Sasquatch.
You know that Loch Ness Monster asked me for about tree fitty. You gave that Loch Ness? I gave that Loch Ness Monster tree fitty.
Trigger warning's talking about the Sam Squanch, though, from Trailer Park Boys.
Never saw it. I never watched an episode. Is that funny? I heard it's a funny show.
Dude, it stopped after like season 5 and it just ended. And like up to that, it was pretty good. I thought it was going to be stupid, but it was pretty funny. And then they came back like a couple years later and like continued it. It wasn't the same, but you could tell they had all aged like several years, but it was supposed to be like the same timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, I never watched it, but I heard it was hilarious. All right.
Dude, you know what's actually kind of crazy, talking about like animals and shit? They found like this massive fucking great white, and there was like this whole big thing that like megalodons are like still existing and shit. But have you ever seen, I think it's at the Museum of Natural History here. Is that the one? Have you been there, John?
Yeah.
Where they have like the big T-Rex. I think they have the megalodon mouth there too.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that shit's fascinating to me.
What's crazy is we still haven't, I mean, the bottom of the ocean, there's still creatures down there that they're finding, in the water. That one fish that they never even knew, they thought I think they saw one of them like 50 years ago. I can't remember what the fish was. And then there's that glowing one that actually glows. It looks like it has like neon lights on it.
Yeah, it uses it as a bait.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that thing called?
I can't remember the name of it.
I know
but
what you're talking about, though. Dude, the gnarliest shit is that goblin shark.
I don't think I saw that one.
That was the inspiration for the little mouth, like the xenomorph mouth from Alien. Because it's the goblin shark's mouth like shoots out of its mouth. It's fucking crazy.
Wow.
And then it's also kind of crazy how like everything back in the day was huge. Like they found these fossils from stuff called like mega bears and mega lions, and they were like fucking 12 feet tall. And then there was like, they found these caves. I don't remember where, and they were like, man, like how the hell were like these tunnels and these caves made? And it turns out that like they ended up finding claw marks, and what there was these giant sloths that would just dig with their claws, and that was how they made like these fucking caves and shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to I don't know where the fuck I was going with it. I'm sorry.
Oh, it was an anglerfish, Dan. That's what we were thinking of.
Oh, okay. Yep.
All right, Booty, you want to do the other one real quick, or what do you want to do?
You can jump to yours.
Not fully ready. Okay, well, I have two. Let me ask you. So, this one's kind of interesting, and I found the article on historychannel.com. But it says there was conspiracy theories on the Titanic sinking, and some of these are kind of interesting. I figure we could kind of talk about them for a second. So have you guys ever heard of any conspiracies around the Titanic's sinking?
Wasn't it that the Lithuania was actually the one that sank and that the Titanic never did? Is that what it was?
Well, there's several of them, but I just didn't know if you ever heard any of them.
I never have heard one. No.
Okay. Well, all right. So I'm going to go over a couple of these again. These are off of historychannel.com. So one of them is, it says here, J.P. Morgan planned the disaster to kill his rivals. It says, according to this theory, millionaire banker J.P. Morgan planned the Titanic disaster to kill off rival millionaires Jacob Astor, Isidor Strauss, and Benjamin Guggenheim, who all perished aboard. The theory hinges on the fact that Morgan had originally planned to sail on the Titanic, but changed his mind shortly before it took off. Yet it doesn't offer any explanation on how he caused the ship to hit an iceberg and kill over 1,500 people, let alone the 3 men he supposedly intended to die. To top it off, the theory claims that Morgan wanted to kill them because they opposed the creation of the Federal Reserve, even though Astor and Guggenheim don't appear to have taken a position on it, and Strauss actually supported it. So, yeah, so I don't know. This one's kind of interesting. Again, it's hard to believe that it's true, but the fact that J.P. Morgan was actually supposed to be on the Titanic and he ended up not going is still kind of interesting too. Kind of like I think Mark Wahlberg was supposed to be on one of the flights on 9/11, and he ended up canceling his flight. Otherwise, he would have been one of the people that crashed. And I forget where it was supposed to be, but yeah, it was one of the planes that crashed on 9/11 he was supposed to be on.
Speaking of 9/11, there was actually, I don't remember his name, but it was a dude that worked in one of the towers, and he like took out an insurance policy that pretty much covered a plane hitting the tower, and then just so happened to like right before, and then just so happened to call off and not go to the office that day.
Oh,
and that was covered in detail with the Corbett report.
Yeah. No, yeah, he took you said $2 billion insurance policy on it, and he actually cashed in on it too. But yeah, I forget his name, but yeah, I've read that. They also I thought they talked about it in Loose Change too.
Oh, I never saw that.
He took an insurance policy on what? On himself?
No, the building.
What?
You never heard this?
No, I never heard this. Well, how is he? How can a person take an insurance policy out on a building that they don't on something they don't own? I don't understand.
No, they did. The owners of the
owners did. I'm sorry. I thought Buddha said some guy that worked in there. I apologize. My bad.
He had an office in the building,
but he owned it.
Yeah.
He owned one of the. Okay, that's. I'm sorry. I didn't catch that part. My bad.
Yeah, it was in Loose Change.
Okay. Yeah, that is weird. That is a weird one.
The Vermonster Richard says the Olympic was damaged and wouldn't pass a safety insurance test. Switched names to make money because the Olympic was listed as bent. Insurance money, August. Let's see. Double indemnity clause on the World Trade Center. Larry Silverstein made bank. That's it. Yeah. Thanks, Larry. That is it. Larry Silverstein.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. I've heard of him.
Cool. All right. I'm going to do something crazy here tonight, and we'll see if he did it. Larry, I'm going to send you an invite to hop in here and just say, hey. I've been emailing him back and forth, and he has the bare essentials to get on, so we'll see if we can hear from him tonight. Let's see here.
And Larry's been with us since season 1, so.
Yeah. Long time coming. But yeah, so, Larry Silverstein was the guy that took the insurance policy out. And yeah, you're correct. It was like around $2 billion. So, okay, cool. All right. So I'm going back to the article here. Fuck. Did I close it? The Titanic never sank. This is another one. It says people seem to love a good insurance fraud story. So maybe it's unsurprising that the conspiracy theory is that one of Titanic's most popular. The one, I don't even know how to pronounce this word. It says the one posits that someone switched the Titanic with another White Star Line ship, the Olympic. This is what the Vermin Monster Richards was talking about in the chat. It says here that the Olympic was swapped with the Olympic, but as Paul Burns, vice president and curator of the Titanic Museum's attraction in Missouri and Tennessee, points out, it just doesn't make any sense. Quote, the theory starts with the fact that the Olympic was damaged while sailing from Southampton, England to New York in September 1911 and had to return to Harland and Wolff's shipping yard in Belfast for repairs. The company repaired the Olympic and it sailed to New York and back. It returned to Belfast for more repairs in March of 1912, a few weeks before the Titanic set sail. The conspiracy theory claims that some person or people found the Olympic too severely damaged to be profitable, and so at some point switched it with the Titanic, purposefully ditched the damaged ship, reap the insurance money. It seems to kill a bunch of people in the process. There are a lot of holes in this theory, but one is the biggest is that Titanic's insurance wasn't enough to cover the Olympics' loss. As J. Kent Layton writes in Conspiracies at the Sea. Let's see. Larry's popping in. Larry, you got your headphones in? Check 2. He's in the room, but no audio. Let's see. Can't hear him.
You got me now?
I got you now, Larry. Oh my goodness.
Sweet.
Do you have headphones in though?
Earphones.
Okay, yeah, because I can hear a little bit of me in the background.
Hang on a sec. Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit. I can't hear me now. Buddha, go ahead and check real quick.
Can you hear that?
Check 1, 2.
Yeah, that's great.
Check 1, 2.
Yeah, cool. Larry, welcome. Dude, thank you for inviting everybody tonight. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, man.
Usually it's just you.
Yeah, that's what I told them. It's usually just me.
Yeah. So what's good over in the great state of Washington?
Tomorrow's Friday. That's good.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
So what do you know about the Titanic and any of those conspiracies around it?
Well, there was the Britannic, the Titanic, and the Olympic. And the ship that's on the bottom of the ocean, one of the letters in Titanic fell off of it, and there was an M underneath it.
Wait,
and
say that again?
One of the letters on the Titanic name on the bow.
Yeah.
One of the letters fell off, and there's an M underneath it from Olympic.
I'm looking here. I never saw that. We just did the Olympic conspiracy theory. It says also, all right, so here's another story on here I don't know if you guys heard of. It says a mummy's curse doomed the Titanic. One of the passengers who went down with the Titanic was William Stead, a British editor who subscribed to the early 20th century spiritualism and had spent the past several years claiming a cursed mummy was causing mysterious destruction and disaster in London. As with other myths about Egyptian curses and Native American burial grounds, this myth played off on colonialists' anxiety about the people in whose land they had plundered. On board the Titanic, Stead happily repeated his tale of the mummy's curse to other passengers. After the ship sank, a survivor recounted Stead's story to the New York World, and the media picked it up. The next month, the Washington Post ran this headline: "Ghost of the Titanic, Vengeance of the Hoodoo Mummy followed the man who wrote its history." So I don't know if that's anything. It says the ship's number. Here's another myth here. It says the ship's numbers read "No Pope" backwards. I don't really know how much of I think we lost him. Well, he wasn't here. Oh, he's reconnecting. It says one of the myths it's that the Catholic employees of Hartland and Wolff, the Belfast company, built the Titanic and were distressed that the ship's number 390904 seemed to say "No Pope" when viewed in a mirror. Was this a sign of bad luck that foretold the ship's doom? It says the Titanic historian Walter Lord wrote that he received letters from people in Ireland relaying "No Pope" story beginning in the mid-1950s, yet as Burns pointed out in his 1986 book, The Night Lives On, there was no such number attached to the Titanic. And then last one here is Jack Dawson is Jay Gatsby. Okay, this one is actually about the 1997 Titanic movie, and it is a fan theory, but still. There is a theory on the internet that Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Titanic and his character in The Great Gatsby are the same person. Okay, this has nothing to do with the real story, but
right.
I don't know, but yeah. So again, like the two main ones here that I've heard of is, like I said, it was an insurance, like a way to, cause fraud for insurance, and then also the I have heard the JP Morgan one before, but like I said, what's creepy about it is the fact that he was supposed to be aboard the ship and then never actually got on the ship, and I always find that to be interesting. There was also a story too where somebody boarded the ship, I think in Belfast, Ireland, and then got off the ship in London, because I think it docked in London before that it made its way out to America, if I'm correct. And there was somebody that got off there and dodged a bullet as well. But yeah, I've also read too that within the next, I think 10 years, there's not going to be anything left of the Titanic.
I've heard something like that too. I was going to say the JP Morgan one sounds, I've never heard any of these before, but I personally think that one sounds the most ridiculous, because if he, back in the 1910s and early 1900s, if he wanted to get rid of competition or get rid of someone, or anyone with any money wanted to get rid of someone, they could have got away with it pretty easily than having to go through all that to sink so they didn't even provide a way of how did he make an iceberg appear, or they didn't give how it happened. How did he make the ship sink, So, as far as the fact that he didn't show up, that's just damn good luck. That's what I would put that to. But
right, yeah, it's always interesting.
The insurance one is kind of interesting. No, I have to admit the insurance one's a little.
Yeah, with you being in insurance, let me ask you this: so, being in insurance, how skeptical do you have to be while doing your job? Is that a trait of the trade?
Well, it really depends on what if you're talking sales. I mean, sales, you don't have to have any kind of, skeptical. You don't have to be skeptical of anything when you're selling. But as a claims adjuster, or at the position I do right now, you have to do a certain level of you have to do not a certain level. You have to investigate everything. As a claims adjuster, you have to investigate everything. Of course, your person on the phone is going to tell you that they were not at fault. They didn't know this was going to happen, or this, that, and the other thing. And, like you're talking about fraud. I mean, it happens all the time. Insurance fraud happens all the time. And the insurance companies, they know how to handle that. They're very well equipped with the tools to find out when or not find out, but when to investigate when there's potential for fraud. They have special investigative units within the insurance companies that look into this stuff. So you have to answer your question. Yeah, every single person that you talk to, if you're I'm not talking about sales, but as a claims adjuster or as an underwriter like I am, you have to take everything with a grain of salt and make sure that that person might be saying this, this, and this, but just like a detective, everyone's a suspect immediately. Everyone is a suspect when a murder happens or anything happens suspicious. It's the same guidelines. You have to be extremely detail oriented, and you can't miss one thing when you're investigating an insurance claim.
One note here also, as I'm looking at this theory on JP Morgan, it says this theory resurfaced recently in connection with the QAnon, a far-right conspiracy theory detailing a proposed secret plot by an alleged deep state against U.S. President Donald Trump and his supporters. But yeah, interesting. But yeah, the ship is decaying at a rapid rate. I think they said there's an algae that is rust eating algae, and within 10 years there won't be anything left, which is crazy to think that like it was found in 1984 or it's somewhere 84, 85 or 86 by Robert Ballard. And obviously James Cameron has gone down on a couple trips to visit it. But if you had the opportunity to go and see it in person on a submarine, would you do it?
Like get out and like dive and go through it?
You can't dive through it. You can't get out of the sub, but you can go down on a sub and kind of look through the window and control the robots that go through it.
How deep is it sitting?
Oh, let me see. How far? What about you, Larry? Would you go down?
It says the stern was 2,000 feet in the sea.
I don't know if Larry can still hear us or not.
Yeah, I got you.
Would you go down if you had the opportunity to see it, or would you stay above the water?
I'd go check it out.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, are you thinking just the iceberg, or do you think something else?
It was an insurance scam. I think it was the number 3 boiler was supposed to be on fire when they left that port.
And it wasn't, or?
I think it was.
So you're saying that it was an insurance scam. So it never hit an iceberg, but actually the boiler is what did it in.
Well, I think it just happened to hit the iceberg. I think it just happened to work out that way.
Gotcha. So then what about the boiler?
I think it was on fire. And,
unrelated, but still, I guess
everything I've seen said that the ship was listening to the left when it left port.
Right, but I guess like how is the boiler what caused the sinking, or is the iceberg? I guess is what I'm not following.
Well, the videos that I watched said that the boiler fire heated up the steel, and when it hit that iceberg, the steel was weaker than it should have been. Gotcha. Okay, now it makes sense. Sorry about that. I was like, I'm not understanding. My head is imploding. But yeah, I don't know. Like, so I would go see it. Buddha, what about you?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, just to be down there next to it, there's just so much history and like and lore around it that I guess just being in the presence of it would be insane. Aren't they building a 1-to-1 replica of it for people to sail on right now? I think that they're working.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that they're.
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to set sail here. Titanic replica.
But the videos that I saw said that they changed some of the windows on the ships to make the Olympic look like the Titanic.
Mm-hmm. Wait, can you repeat that again? I'm sorry, I was reading this.
There was little slight differences in the way the windows and the portholes was on the two ships, and the videos that I saw said that they altered them to make the Olympic look like the Titanic.
Gotcha. Yeah, looking here, it says this is May 18th of 2021. It says Titanic replica now under construction in China. So full scale 1-to-1 replica.
It's so crazy. You ever seen it looked in those photos, the old photos when the Titanic obviously was first, going out to sea. When you look at it, it looks so damn huge, and then they show these pictures of it compared to a current, cruise line, one of the new current ones.
Yeah,
it's like tiny.
Yeah, in comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stayed aboard its cousin, the Queen Mary, in Long Beach, and it was kind of weird because my grandparents actually immigrated on the Queen Mary after the Second World War. So I got to stay on the ship that my grandparents came over to the country on. But it had been updated, I think, in the late 60s because it was like a ocean liner. And then the war happened, and it actually used the ship during the war. And then after the war, it became an ocean liner again. And so it had been updated and modernized, and it was actually hit by, I think, a mine or a minesweeper back during the war too. So Titanic is a good Mr. Show bit. I love Mr. Show. It's a hilarious show. Bob Odenkirk, David Cross. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting, just to kind of hit on a couple of the Titanic things. It'd be interesting to see something like that, like a disaster like that happen in person. Like, I think obviously, like, we saw 9/11 happen, and it's so odd and different to see like a ship that shouldn't sink, and that, these pictures and paintings that people have illustrated of this catastrophe happening. But it's like the Hindenburg video. You can't help but like watch it and go, how does something like this happen? And realistically, you're watching something that is, you see fake stuff like this in the movies, but when it's real, it's hard to believe that it's actually real and happening in front of you. And something like this happening, where a giant ship like that to go down, is just so bizarre. I don't know where I'm going with it. Probably sound like a rambling idiot.
Well, I mean, weren't the towers built to withstand a plane crash?
Yeah.
Not that style plane.
No, airliner.
They were, from what I was reading, they were, I thought the 747 was, they were designed to withstand a plane crashing into them, but I didn't know that they were designed to have a 747, because I had a book about the architect that designed those buildings, a little Japanese guy, Chinese guy, one of the two, and they worried about a plane crashing into those buildings, but I didn't think it was enough to. I could be wrong. You could look it up and let me know. But I thought it was just
the
like
towers were designed to withstand a 707, a commercial airline
what crashed
that
into it?
existed at the time in 1970.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey guys,
What's the size difference between that and the?
Larry, what do you got?
have you guys heard of Operation Northwoods?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, when you research Operation Northwoods, 9/11 suddenly all makes sense.
Yeah. They talk about it in, what's it called? Loose Change, don't they?
They might.
Yeah.
It's been a long time
Northwoods
since I
was the
saw
one. Northwoods was the one when they were going to make it look like Cuba attacked so that they can go to war with
Yeah.
Cuba. Wasn't that Northwoods?
Okay, yes.
Yep. But see what I think happened on 9/11? I think there was 3 drones. That 2 drones hit the 2 towers, because everybody says that those, where the aircraft hit the towers, they were banked at exactly the same angle. Exactly.
Well, yeah, and
So
and also, how does so nothing of that plane survives. The fireball is so intense, but yet a passport can somehow make it to the street,
exactly.
hundreds of stories below. It flew out of the guy's pocket. Okay.
He tossed it out the window before,
Right.
as he was hitting
Yeah.
the building.
I mean, it's just horse shit, like some of the stuff. I mean, I've been following the 9/11 engineers for 9/11 page on Facebook. Fantastic page, but it's just the amount of shit that they put in that commission report is just, it's baffling.
Well, it's the same as the Warren Commission report. They made
I was just
going
going
to
to say that.
They made it that way so that you lose interest and quit reading it.
Right. Yeah.
See, that's That's like the Warren Commission report. I've read the whole entire thing. If you read it, it exonerates Lee Harvey Oswald. It proves his innocence.
Yeah.
He's right. I've never paid any attention to the conspiracy theories about 9/11, but I definitely have for what you were saying, Larry, about JFK, and the amazing thing with that Warren Commission is it takes away any blame to the Secret Service, who absolutely acted very, very strange that day. You know, when they're supposed to be protecting the President of the United States, their behavior that day was, even for the times, you know, the way that they behaved when, you know, he started getting shot at. The Warren Commission doesn't even barely talk to them about a lot of these things. They don't even go into a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. If you didn't agree with their theory that the shots came from behind from that school book depository, you didn't get to testify in front of the Warren Commission.
Right.
Alan Dulles controlled the information. It should have been called the Dulles Commission instead of the Warren Commission.
Yeah, I think before we take our break here in a couple weeks, I think how many shows we got left, Dan? I think, let's see, two. Yeah, I think maybe next week, Larry, if you got time and you want to come on, maybe we'll do some stuff on JFK. How's that sound?
Yes, sir. I'm down for that.
All right, cool.
That'll be right up my alley, because I'm definitely
I've learned
good
a
with
lot
that.
more.
Yeah? All right, cool.
See, like that rifle, that Carcano rifle, right? In the Warren Commission report, it says the FBI had to install 3 metal shims under the scope just to make the rifle accurate enough just to test.
Yeah, and they had to do this after the fact?
Exactly.
Right.
In other words, that rifle wasn't sighted in. You couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with it, let alone the president in the head.
Within that very quick time frame, too, of having to be reload and everything.
Conspiracy aside, Larry, did you watch 11/22/63 on Hulu?
No.
So it's the Stephen King story that they turned into, like, it was like an 8-episode miniseries. But it's basically about a guy who goes back in time to try to stop the assassination. So he's got to live in the 60s for 3 years. It was a cool show.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it was a cool show,
but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I recently rewatched it as I was traveling a lot. I watched it on the airplanes and stuff. So, but I mean, it's fiction, but it's sci-fi and time travel and all stuff up my alley. So, of course, I liked it. But all right, cool. Well, Buddha, are you good for tonight? Do you want to close out?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Cool. All right. Well, Larry, we'll have you on next week. And thanks again for getting everybody in here tonight. That really means a lot. So.
Oh, no problem. There's a channel on YouTube called the National Archives, I think it is.
Okay.
And it's just folks that I met in the chat in there.
Oh, right on. Cool. All right. Well, let's say next week we'll have you back in and we'll do some stuff on JFK and some other. Maybe we'll hit on a couple other conspiracies. Send me a list of stuff that you think would be interesting.
Okay.
I'll try to get some stuff on there and kind of quiz you on.
Right on. We'll think of some stuff.
Cool. All right. Dan, are you good?
I'm good.
All right. Well, I would say it's unfortunately we're casting off on a high note as we take the summer off, but I think it was cool.
You'll be off all summer?
Yeah, I honestly, between work and doing this and stuff, I just need I think all of us, we needed like a little bit of a break. And so, plus like my office doing this in the summer, I have to have an AC going and it's just like, it sounds like a jet engine in here. So, but
On this thing, I learned how to mute the microphone. So when I have a cigarette under the radio, I hit that mute button so you guys can hear it.
Hopefully it wasn't a menthol, because you're going to be in deep trouble here shortly.
I have a menthol once in a while, but not too often.
Yeah. All right. Well, for Steve Gibson, Daniel Rady, Gary Nagel, and Lawrence of the Simpson, from The Mistake on the Lake, deep within the Great American Rust Belt. Say goodnight, Larry.
Good night, Larry.
Good night, Buddha.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.